Hey, I'm Marcus.
And I'm Nick.
We are Working Class Nerds.
Cue the intro. That's right, we are Working Class Nerds, the podcast that gives you no information about your favorite information.
Today is Thursday, January 9th, 2020, and you can find Doc's Lightning is the #1 parse in the world on Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. You can also find the both of us on Twitter. I am at MarcusB814.
And I am at Nick Vern, that's NickVern. In this week's episode, we have the #1 damage per second parser in all of Star Wars The Old Republic, none other than Dr. SWTOR. So Doc is Doc's helping us talk about all of the final episodes of The Mandalorian now that we are in spoiler central territory.
No, now that our guests have actually watched
The Mandalorian.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Well, to be fair, I watched it when you were recording with other people, so
that's true.
There's that.
Yes.
Okay.
And also, besides the final episode of The Mandalorian, we're going to be talking about our favorite games of the entire decade.
And before I ask Doc what he's been doing, I just have to say another topic that's going to be discussed is we're going to deep dive into tanking in SWTOR because it's been quite the experience.
And yeah, I definitely want to hear about that.
Yeah,
as well.
it's insane.
But
You
first,
think you want to hear about that?
I only think I do. My opinion might change shortly.
I have a front row seat for a lot of it. He's doing great.
Speaking of your front row seat, Doc, what have you been up to this week?
All right. Well, I really love the intro to this episode, but I am kind of shaking my head like, did they just say that? So my parse that I uploaded to the Parsley leaderboards
was #1
among sorcerers on the small burn operations dummy. So the 1 million HP dummy.
But what does #1 mean? It's first place.
#1 is #1.
Yeah, you're #1 in SWTOR and the burn dummy shooting lightning out of your hands.
I can add the asterisk in the show notes.
Yeah, #1 is #1.
Okay, that's true. So, I mean, #1 on Sorcerer amounts to like there's 40 or so parses, including the other classes that I can still have the desire to beat if I want to keep pushing myself.
Is he talking down about himself? He's #1. Like, just say, yes, I'm #1.
People might listen and think that, like, I'm not understanding reality. Like,
well, the reality is you're #1. You shot lightning out of your hands,
and
you became #1 on the burn dummy for your class. You're #1.
Okay.
If they want to challenge you, they should go try to beat you, and they're going to lose
because you're #1.
Because you're #1
right now. Yes. So
right now.
Okay. Well, I'll accept that then. I wanted to fully explain because, I don't know if you have like 3 Nightmare Raiders who listen to every single episode of the show and they'll just log in and ruin my day because that's how Nightmare Raiders are.
But then you'll get mad and you'll just okay. So let's set the stage, okay? Before he gets into his week,
get a little.
It's 10:30 at night.
Yeah,
I'm in bed. I'm actually in bed at a normal time. I'm tired, and all of a sudden my phone goes bzzz. I'm like, I can get it tomorrow. Then bzzz. And I'm like, well, 2 in a row. That's either Nick or something important. Because me and Nick, we'll text like three-word sentences, like 100 of them in a row.
Yep.
We're terrible like group texters. But anyways, like paragraph texters, I should say.
Yeah, and also terrible for group chats because everyone else gets
they get like
messages.
Exactly, because we think as we type and hit enter every time we finish a sentence. Anyway, and it was Doc, and it said, "Dude, I did it." And then it was a video. And if you could see the pure joy in his face when he realized he was #1, it was magical because he's been doing this for months, trying to be number one. And I knew this was going to continue because a few months ago, maybe a month ago, we did one of the hard mode operations, and he in one of our the god tank on our team, not me, and he was like, "Wow, Doc, your numbers are really high," and he was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "Yeah," and so Doc uploaded it to Parsley, and he was number one on that too. So he's number one. Anyways, Doc, what have you been doing this week?
Well, I did that parse. I've been trying to add some things to my Twitch channel. So people who, if you're not following me yet and you want to, that's twitch.tv/Dr. SWTOR.
Shameless plug.
Yeah,
That was a
absolutely. I mean,
perfect plug.
it's just a great place if you're interested in SWTOR ops. I try to stream every single op that I do, but also I've added Jedi Fallen Order, which it's a whole different thing streaming that game because I feel lost the whole time. Whereas with SWTOR, I feel like, I'm trying to progress. I'm trying to kill bosses at higher difficulties than I have before. But as far as my play, I feel really comfortable.
Because you're
with
number one.
Right. With Jedi Fallen Order, I'm just jumping into a wall for an hour, accomplishing very little. And so that's neat. That's humbling. I've been playing lots of Mario Kart on the Switch with my son, and we're currently trying to get the full 60 points on every circuit at every speed level. And I'd say we're about like 70% through that.
That's sweet.
That's intense. And
today we were doing I don't know the actual names of the races, but we were doing the one that's like very clock themed. Yeah, you're driving around on all the different knobs and dials and cogs of a clock. And 3 consecutive times I was on the final drift into the straightaway for the finish line. First place, 10 coins, max speed coming out of a yellow fire boost, and then a blue turtle shell or a red shell, green shell, or a bomb and then a red shell. Just like screwing my entire experience over when I did everything perfect the other 2 minutes and 40 seconds of the race. So
see, that's where you've got to game the race. Sometimes you should lag back and hang out in second place the whole time, and then you will have the power of the red shell and fuck over the first place person. I think it's like literally in the Mario Kart programming to like give a lot more of those types of items in the last little bits of the race.
But it's hard to stay in second place.
No, you can't. No,
because if you're in second, you're going to end up being in fifth, and then you're not going to win.
Exactly. No, I know. I'm just being.
I mean, luckily though, that's the first race in the circuit, so it's very easy to just restart and try again. But within a stretch of 10 minutes real time, I failed at the very end of the race. So, that's not a new game, so I don't want to linger on it. Which, ironically, we're going to talk about SWTOR. But I've also been I played The Witcher a little bit the last 2 weeks, and I bought it several years ago, the Witcher 3.
Okay.
But I didn't get into it, but then I loved the Netflix show, and actually
me too.
I started playing the game again on my PS4 after I watched the 3rd or 4th episode, and even though they're focusing on different periods of time for the characters, it was actually really helpful to have those little experiences in the game in between episodes, just so that I could understand a little bit more of the terminology and the allegiances, and like, oh, I'm not supposed to like these people, or I'm supposed to question these people. And so that was cool. And I don't know, I'm sure there's a lot more video game stuff that I've been doing, but that's the summary of my last couple weeks.
Very nice. It's funny you mentioned The Witcher. I finished it on Netflix, and I had dabbled into The Witcher 3 a little bit. It was probably right after I finished like my first playthrough of Fallout 4. I went back and tried playing Witcher 3, but having never played the first two games, it was kind of overwhelming to have like there's a lot. Going from Fallout 4 to The Witcher, there's so much more RPG there to deal with and different stats to work with and all the lore to try and absorb all in one time. It can be I found it a little bit daunting. So I played probably like 5 hours or so, and I just never started playing something else and never went back to it. But similarly to you, I watched the Netflix series, realizing midway through after Googling it that it's a prequel to all of the games. And now I'm like, man, now I really want to go back and play all the Witcher games because the Netflix series definitely hooked me. So I have a similar experience there for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm playing the game terribly in terms of what I'm choosing with my stat points or spell upgrades or things. It's one of those games where I think if you play it twice, your second time you're like all in command of it because you have all those hours under your belt, and
Right.
you can build Geralt a lot more efficiently. There are some tutorial windows that pop up, but it would be a lot of reading to read all of them. And so ultimately you just close them and decide to experiment and trial and error your way through learning the game. That's what I think most people would do.
Yeah, that's. I think I tried reading most of them, and same thing. It was like just a slog, having no idea what the hell I was doing.
Yeah. Have you ever played The Witcher 3, Marcus?
No, so I bought it on Steam, like holiday sale, umpteen years ago.
Yep.
Whenever, but to be honest, if I'm gonna play it, I think my best bet to play it would be on the Switch.
I agree.
Because I watched a review on it, like a gameplay review, and they said that it only lags like frame rate a few times, but it plays unbelievable on the Switch. It's a great port. And I'll talk about myself later about PC gaming and Switch gaming and all that stuff. So, but if I was to play it, I would definitely play it on the Switch, I think. But we'll have to wait and see. Nick, what have you been up to?
Well, since we're recording a week from our previous episode.
Yeah, because I'm out of town next week for work.
Yeah, it's all good. I haven't done quite as much gaming as I normally would have, but that doesn't mean I didn't do any gaming. I actually forgot to write this in my notes, but I did what?
That's not what your notes say.
I know.
It says, well, Marcus, I've been a douchebag for a couple weeks, and the only game I have played is The Sims 4. Man, I made a character that looks just like me. Ha, 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 ha. Boy, I am cool. Why did you read that? That's you.
Gee, I wonder who typed those into the shared Google Doc notes.
Sorry. I thought I was dying.
Marcus was a little impatient with me waiting to type my notes. So he just wrote some notes for me, obviously. That said that. I have never played The Sims.
Are we seriously talking about how we're reading the show notes during our podcast recording?
Yeah, but it was hilarious.
Oh, we break the fourth wall. It's okay.
Yeah.
We get a little crazy on working class nerds. So anyways, I did play a bunch of games. I mainly two. I also watched all of The Witcher on Netflix, which is really good, even if you don't really know what the heck is happening in the Witcher universe. I think the show does a pretty cool job of like getting you into it.
Yeah, and if you do go back to play The Witcher 3, I would suggest, because I did play The Witcher 1.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Go to YouTube. It's like a 15-minute video, and it'll give you the recap of 1 and 2 and the books to try to give you a little
so you know what the hell you're walking into in 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so from what I gathered, the show is based off of, there's 2 prequel books before the regular books that the games are based off of. So the show is based off of the prequels. And then the games are based off of the actual books in the series. So the show is essentially a prequel to the games. So I think if you watch the show, watch a little recap on the first 2 games, then dive into The Witcher 3, you should be fairly caught up there. I think I'm going to go back and play The Witcher 3 once I'm done with the Outer Worlds.
Totally should.
But I've also played some more Call of Duty. That's my like I have an hour to kill at night after work or something.
It's the best, man. I
Yeah.
told you, there's nothing like the quick fix game,
Yeah, and Al, my good buddy Al, is always good for an hour or two of video games.
especially Call of Duty right now because he's logged like 90 days since it came out.
Yeah, he has like 3 different guns gold. He's a level 100.
Yeah.
Al does not mess around with Call of Duty. His kill death ratio is like almost 2. He's ridiculous. It's better when when we queue up together and I pick the games because I'm so much worse than him. My kill death ratio is like 0.8, which is like fine, but Al's is like 2.0. So if we go into like a lobby with the people that as good as him, I just get destroyed every time. Versus Al is like first place. So anyways, I'm close to getting gold camo on one of my guns, the M4A1, which is exciting. I've never ever done that in a Call of Duty before. Usually I'm not, that good at it, so I never get all of the camos for one gun. So that's exciting. I also got a chance today to continue playing the Outer Worlds before the show, which is continuing to be incredible. I had taken a little bit, it was about a week or so in between playing, and it's really awesome. It's like Fallout 4 in space. There's even like a big overarching company that mirrors Vault Tech, but in space. It's called Spacer's Choice. It's really cool.
You're not rushing through the game, are you?
No, I do every single possible side quest that I come across, and I explore every single building I possibly can.
See, that's how you immerse yourself into it.
Yeah, in those games I explore everything, and I do all of the side quests. I don't skip any of them. That's why it takes I'm still on the first planet, and I was reading a review saying after like the first 4 hours or so, you get off the planet and blah blah blah. And I'm probably like 12 or 14 hours in, and I'm still on the first planet because I've done everything.
Yeah, but that's a way to make a game that you really enjoy last.
Yeah, like I know it's supposed to be like a 30-hour story, but I'll probably turn that into a 70 or 80-hour story.
Wow.
Just because I like to do all the side stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, my slight spoilers, but nothing too crazy. My high lock picking skill came in handy today because I unlocked a building and I found a plasma rifle.
Whoa.
Which was not a thing prior to me finding it. I didn't have any plasma anything, and it's cool because you can charge up a shot and then shoot things, versus every other gun that I found so far was like regular bullets. So that was cool, and I was just annihilating everything.
Annihilation.
Everything, it turns to goop. And so another thing that I really like about New Vegas and some of the other Fallout games, but mainly New Vegas, is it are like the morality choices. So I'm on the first planet, and it's already setting you up to choose like the lesser of two shitty options. So I have to basically kill one settlement, and I have to pick between the two. And one of them is like this corporate town based around a factory with all these people just like working, trying to live their lives. And the other one is are the hippie people that escaped that corporate town and grow their own food in this like greenhouse and have their settlement. And
I know who would die.
So I have to choose which town to take the power from so that I can use the part that controls the power to repair my ship and get off the planet. But when I do that, I'm going to kill one of the towns. So I don't know who I'm going to pick. I basically got to the point where I'm going to make that choice before the show.
Yeah.
I know what Marcus would do.
Absolutely.
What do you think you would do, Doc? Would you kill the poor corporate people, just trying to live their lives and do their job in the factory town, or would you kill the hippie folks who are growing their own food in the greenhouse off-site?
I don't know. The way you describe both of those groups, I feel like I could see myself killing either of them, just whichever is more convenient for me to kill first.
That's that me too. Like, in one aspect, you're like, if you take the power from the corporate town, you have a chance of those people being like liberated from the overseers or whatever, and maybe they'll go live with the hippies. But you don't know how that's going to pan out until after you make that decision. So like they could just get fucked and die essentially. And same thing with the hippie people, like they could technically go back into corporate town, but you don't know how that's going to play out. So there's a good chance that like a bunch of people are going to die. I don't know which choice to make. So that's kind of where I'm at in the game. But I really like that I have this terrible choice to make. Like, this is interesting. Makes for really cool gameplay, and it's why I enjoy a lot of the things that Obsidian as a studio makes for games.
Well,
Obviously,
that question there, Nick, is actually one of the reasons why I thought to even research SWTOR, is because it has some choice in it, and like games that give you that choice, even simple choices like going way back, like to Harvest the Little Sister, or to like,
oh yeah, in BioShock.
in BioShock, just things like that. Like, I've always been fascinated with the concept of using a video game choice in lieu of like a personality assessment.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, you're right. Both of those outcomes forces a group of people that don't belong in the only option remaining to try and assimilate. And that doesn't usually go well anyway, if anyone is familiar with things we learn in history class.
Right.
So,
Exactly. So it's interesting. I'm really enjoying that game, and I'm probably going to play a little bit once we finish the show,
Well,
depending on what time we finish.
I'd kill the hippies
I know you would.
because the corporate guys are probably offering benefits, 401k, health insurance. Like, hello, they probably are pretty good to those people.
They're not. They're actually terrible.
Well, I don't care.
But it's not so cut and dry either. Like, it's tricky. I don't know who I'm going to side with.
Yep.
I also don't trust the leader of the hippies.
If
They
you
seem a little
describe them
culty.
differently without the word corporate, I wonder if I would have instantly sided with the other group, because Star Wars kind of has trained me to question the goodness of the established government and the corporations and like the people who have those kinds of resources.
You're in this game. It's set up like this company's horrific. You're like they make you pay for your own grave, which you are technically renting from Spacer's Choice, the company. It's like things like that. If you have to take sick leave, they say you have to put in a advance notice of a month before you're going to take your sick leave. So the company's supposed to be like dystopianly, if that's a word, horrific to their cousin. But anyways, but the hippie people might also be a cult, and I haven't figured that out yet, and I'm trying to figure it out. So I don't know. They're both basically terrible people, but I'm trying to figure it out, and it makes
you got to just pick who's less terrible.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out.
I don't believe in lesser evils, Marcus.
Is that like a do or do not? There is no try type of philosophy.
It's from The Witcher.
Oh, you're right. It is from The Witcher. Damn it! That one went right over my head.
Gotta keep up, Nick.
I gotta rewatch it. But without any further rambling from me, Marcus, what have you been up to this week?
Pokemon Sword. I'm still in the Wildlands, which I've been for weeks, and I won't leave until like all my Pokemon are level 20 because I'm so afraid that when I go to like the first gym, I'm just gonna get my butt whooped.
Wait a minute, you've been playing all this time and you've dude, the first gym's gonna be like level 10 and 12 Pokemon. Then
I'm just gonna dominate.
Yeah, what level are your Pokemon?
20.
Yeah, you're good through at least probably the second gym too. What type are they?
I don't know.
They're usually
I just collect them, and whatever one's got cool moves, I keep them.
Oh my god!
Well, Marcus, you get to carry 6, so you should diversify. So have a fire, have a water, have a flying, have a grass.
Oh, I do. I kept the one that I kept the bee one. I don't know what it's called, and it's got false swipe, so I know I have to keep that one because that's how you catch some of the Pokemon. And I've been doing so. Believe it or not, I did a little raiding in it. And it was fun, but it was really easy. Like my Pokemon was really strong, so it was like one hit and it killed the thing. But then in this corner of the Wildlands, there was like this castle, and I was like, I want to go in that castle. Mm-hmm. Well, all those Pokemon in that little grass field were like level 26, and they dominated me. Oh. And all the big Pokemon walking around are all level 26, 35 and stuff. So I'm like, clearly I can't get those now.
Yeah, you got to come back.
But I've been spending so I'm like 6 hours in the game. But I'm still in like the opening area. So anyway, I downloaded Pokemon Go, and
I can't believe you're playing that. But go ahead.
Anyways, it's been actually fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. I see. Okay. I jumped off like probably after the first third week that it was
Well,
out or
I
something.
just do it to do it, right?
Yeah.
It's just something to do. But okay, so when you throw a Pokeball and you miss, that counts as one Pokeball.
Right.
Needless to say, I didn't realize that, and I went through like 100 of them. And then
you
I went to
had
go
100.
Yeah. And then it was like, oh, you have no Pokeballs. Go to a Poke Gym or a Pokestop. And I'm like, the
Pokestop.
fuck is a Pokestop? And thank God I live right next to a park. So it was 11:30 at night, and I was walking with a hood on through a park right next to my house. And
The park is a Pokestop.
yeah, but it only gave me 3 Pokeballs, and I was pretty pissed because I didn't even get to catch one of the Pokemon because I'm terrible at aiming.
Yeah.
And then it has this augmented reality thing, which I shut that shit off. It was dumb. What do I care if it's sitting on my bar?
Right.
Like, no.
Or like on your bedside
Yeah,
table.
and then you have to like aim in a certain way. At least in like the regular version, it's right in front of you in the same spot every time.
Yeah, that's convenient.
And I'm way better with the Pokeballs. Anyway, and I should have asked prior to, but I joined Team Yellow. But after I found out Doc is Team Blue, but then I found Bo is Team Yellow. So
Oh, thank God. You got a friend.
I've got a friend. Anyway, so I've been tanking in SWTOR.
Mhm.
And everybody knows that I've been taking it because I've talked about it the past episodes. But I just want to take a minute and like talk about it because my entire career, I've been a Marauder, which is the greatest class in the game. You have 2 lightsabers and you decimate everything in your way. You have predation, which is your super speed, and it gives everybody on your team super speed, which is the greatest move ever because nobody else has that.
And nobody likes to walk slowly.
Nobody likes to walk slowly. That's why they made rocket boots. So, anyway, the thing about a Marauder is you want to jump in first because you're the most badass person on the planet.
Right.
The problem is the tanks don't like it when you jump in early. So, I became a tank. Our team needed it, Death Star Troopers, and I'll tell you, it's a different world for me. Because like you're not, I used to be worried about damage. Now it doesn't matter. Now it matters about threat. So when I jump in, I need to damage the boss and create threat so the boss stays on me. Let me give you an example. There's a thing called a guard, which you put a bubble around a guy. If I don't put a bubble around Doc, I can't hold the boss because Doc pulls the boss off me and it wipes the group.
Yeah.
And so it's just it's a new feature. And the big thing for me is learning that rotation, quote unquote, because the way I understand it from our God tank on Death Star Troopers is that you do your opening rotation, that matters. Then everything else doesn't really matter because by the end of that, you have threat and you hold it. But little do I know that when I watch Star Parse, his threat is always, I don't want to say double mine, but, a good third more than mine. And I'm struggling to figure that out. And I know it's because he's DPSing better than me. But am I supposed to be DPSing more? Or am I supposed to be generating threat more? And it's really hard for me to learn that because there's no, like, I've Googled in every which way tanking and all that stuff, and there's no real right answer. And that's where I'm really struggling because I understand, like crushing blow that and backhand. Like I get to backhand somebody.
Yeah.
But that creates a lot of threat. But that doesn't create DPS. So am I supposed to have my tank rotation, but then after I do that opener, just do a DPS rotation to hold threat and occasionally do a threat generator while taunting? I'm not really sure.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
You got to find that like fine-tuned balance.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing. Like,
right.
I'm starting to understand it a little bit better. And that's a good call, Nick, leaning back.
Yes.
So I'm I don't want to say I'm struggling with it, but I'm learning as I go. So this week, Death Star Troopers went back to Tithe. Full exposure of me and my weakness. We went the week before on a whim. It was like an extra night. And we got the boss to 23%, which if you get them to 20, it's burn phase.
Mm-hmm.
So we were 3% away from essentially, if I did my AoE taunt right, we would have won. But again, I screwed it up somehow and we lost.
Yeah, but you're still learning how to tank, and that's
Right.
one of the harder fights, isn't it?
Yeah, but I really want to win. That's the one, that's like my story mode underlurker. I want to win. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I was really pissed off at myself at the end of the night. Like I even screamed fuck. Like at the top of my lungs when we wiped on that 23% because I fucked up
Yeah.
and the boss turned and cleaved. I don't know if the boss cleaved everybody or I brought an ad, an ad got to him and he hit the ad and it just wiped the group. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I blame myself. And so I really wanted to win. So we did an extra night on a Wednesday. And then that Sunday, I was like, we're going back. Everybody get ready. We're going to win. So we went back and it just wasn't our night. And, which is okay. So then we started our next roadmap operation, which is explosive conflict. And there's the first bosses are Toth and Zorn, which I've cleared those a lot as a DPS. And it's a tough fight anyways, but as a tank, first time tank, let me tell you, it wasn't easy. And, I'm learning that like camera angle is everything, because if you don't have the camera angle to see what's going on in the fight, it can really mess up your game, because I have to concentrate on certain mechanics that I never had to worry about before. I almost feel like I was lazy as a DPS.
Yeah. I mean, you have such a. I feel like it's a way smaller amount to focus on.
Yeah, all I had to do was worry about hitting the boss. Mechanics didn't matter. All I had to do is, red circle, stand out of it, keep hitting the boss.
Right.
When the tank said swap and do all that, I didn't pay attention to any of that.
Right.
Well, now I
you
have to pay attention.
Right. So this camera angle, are you keeping it like super duper panned out? And then
Yes, but like if you're hugged against a wall, the camera auto focuses you to even could be first person view, because the camera doesn't have an angle to go behind you because of an imaginary wall.
Oh, I see.
So like controlling that is really hard,
Right.
because I never had to really worry about that before, except in the Corruptor Zero fight.
Right. So it's an extra layer of.
Right. And I have awesome people like Doc and our God Tank and a few other people. Bo, believe it or not, keeps me grounded, because like if I do a good job, he's like, listen, you did mediocre. Don't get ahead of yourself. But it was good, but it's not great. You got things to work on. Let's move along.
Right.
So anyway, so in explosive conflict, we beat Toth and Zorn, and we were really close to beating the second boss, which is Stormcrawler and Firebrand. They're tanks. And that's a whole new learning fight for me, because I've never done it as a tank. Before it was DBS the boss, you get thrown off, go kill some ads, come back to the boss. It was easy. I'm like, why is everybody having so much trouble? And then there's this thing called double destruction. I've been in raid groups. Go ahead, Doc.
Oh, I was just saying double D.
Yeah, double D. So there's been raid groups that I go in and they really struggle on double destruction. And I'm like, I don't see how hard it is. Well, if you're not watching like the cast bar for the enemy boss,
yeah,
you can miss it because it goes quick and then it wipes the group.
Oh, okay.
So I went into my interface editor, put the cast bar right in the middle of my screen.
Yeah.
Like,
you can't miss it.
It's like alert,
danger, danger, Will Robinson.
Because that is your most important job in that fight. So why not move that cast bar to the middle of the screen so you can't miss it?
Right.
And then when you're done, move it back.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and we were so close. Other things killed us, but it's progression. So then I was asked by Rut and his team to go to Temple of Sacrifice in hard mode.
Mm-hmm.
I prepared myself. I'm like, okay, the first boss, the second boss. Okay. Then they tell me they're on the fourth and fifth boss. They're on the fourth boss. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't prepare. So they walked me through it. It actually wasn't too bad. I mean, I failed a few times in the first fight for the commanders, but it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then we got to Revan. And I was excited because as a tank, I beat the commanders. Like, in these fights, the tank is such an important role because you have to do your job or the group dies.
Right.
Right? It's not like it's single tank fight, most of these fights. So we got to Revan. So they started explaining. So there's 3 floors to Revan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Each one is its own progression. But I was like, oh, okay, shouldn't be too bad. Little did I know, on each floor, there's like 3 or 4 things you need to learn.
Oh, boy.
In order to progress.
Right.
But the group was so nice, and they like literally, they make a game out of it by dying because you're going to die a lot. The repair bills are going to be crazy.
Yeah.
But it was so worth it to experience that with such an awesome team. And I can't wait for Death Star Troopers to get there because it's like each little piece of the floor when you get to that next thing. Like I got to HK 51. And it was exciting because I got to see the meat bag. And I was excited because I was like, wow, progression. And it was super cool to see it. And like, I can't wait for my Death Star Troopers people to go see it.
Well, that's cool.
But it's an accomplishment for me as a tank to be able to be asked by another team. That's where I was going with all this. I was asked by another team to tank, which means I'm still terrible, but
you're getting less terrible.
Yeah, but if I'm being asked, I it's a compliment. Or there's just not enough tanks, and they're like, "Well, we got to take something."
Right.
So it's I'm not really sure on that part yet.
Well, Marcus, there are definitely different flavors of terrible. Where, like, if people believe that you're retaining information and you're growing and developing and like it's in their best interest to get you into the fight so that now you're a dependable resource instead of the worst kind of terrible.
So I'm less terrible?
Yeah, you're like a mediocre kind of terrible. I think that's what Bo would say.
You're not. Yeah, at least you're terrible, but at least you're progressing upwards.
Oh, I'm driven. Go ahead.
Well, Marcus, in a small window of time, you've been tanking for us since 6.0 dropped. So end of October, collect the gear for a couple weeks and, then just jump in. You've beat more veteran mode ops in a 6-week window than some of my other teams throughout the years have been able to do in maybe double or triple that amount of time because, well, you have good people around you, but you are studying and you're like, people can tell you what to do and you know what that means. So you go do it. And that's actually really fun to see happen. Dread Palace and Scum and Villainy and a couple others, they're already done in the 6.0 era.
Well, I appreciate that. But the other side of that is we have a really good team around us. We have the God Tank, friend of the show, Slayer.
Right.
And then, we have you, Doc, as a DPS, Bo as a DPS, Ven as a DPS, and Ted, another friend of the podcast from State of the Old Republic podcast.
Yep.
They're all of the DPS. And for the record, we're the only raid team that has 3 podcasters on it.
That's really true. That's probably a untapped marketing ploy. Why are we so dumb?
I don't know. Anyway, and then we have Kat and we have Keone as our healers. So like we have a really good team. And sometimes when we're fighting a boss, the DPS melt the boss. Melt it. And I'm like, wow, the fight's over already. It felt like story mode. That's how fast they die. But then you look at Parse and like you look at all of their numbers and you're like,
oh, that's
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why we won so fast. All right, next up. Anyway, the last thing that I've really been doing, so I started listening to another Zelda podcast. That's the name of it.
Yeah.
Because it's really good. And I really like Zelda.
Wait, the game or the character?
Just no, the character and like Link and Zelda and all the games. I like them all that I've played.
Yeah.
But it makes me wish I'm finishing Breath of the Wild.
I was just thinking that for myself as well.
Wait, you didn't beat it?
No.
Wait, you didn't beat Breath of the Wild?
I know.
And you have a pro controller now?
That's what I'm gonna use the power of the pro.
But you got to beat the
controller.
Outer Worlds first.
Yeah. I do.
So what I'm trying to say is I would love to play it, and this is going to bring me into the $1 million question. Did an MMO ruin my gaming life? So let me lay it out. I play 3 nights a week from 9 to, let's call it 11. If I get on at 8:30 or I play till 11:30, okay. But let's call it 6 hours a week, right? So I get to play video games 6 hours a week on average. Maybe a little more some weeks, whatever. When I am not playing Star Wars The Old Republic, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to myself and to the game. What I mean by that is I could be getting gear. I could be getting better at tanking. I could be doing this. I could be progressing that story or doing this or doing that because that game never ends.
Right.
I would love to play Jedi Fallen Order and beat it. Like I really tried to like really play it. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to play Star Wars The Old Republic. So congratulations, BioWare. You did your job.
Right. So 6 hours a week times 52 weeks in a year is 300 and something, I forget, hours in a year of game time and regular game time. You know, not without extras.
Not without bonus streams.
Right. So if that's the number and then you divide that by, call it a 40-hour game, right? That's fairly average.
Yeah.
That would be 7.8 games a year that you're losing out on just because you're only playing Star Wars The Old Republic.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
So my question is, I love SWTOR. We're going to talk about the games of the decade.
Yeah.
Later, and SWTOR is my favorite game. It's a Star Wars game. I got to create characters that are named after my family and all that stuff, and they make decisions basically the way a 3-year-old would or a 1-year-old would, whatever.
Right.
But my thing is I don't want, like, everybody says, oh, you could not play tonight because you're not doing operations, and you could play that game. And I'm like, yeah, but I also could be getting X or Y done. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I totally get it.
Doc, what do you think?
Well, I think that, I mean, going through what I've come to know about MMOs and, you know, the academics that I do came actually before SWTOR. And so SWTOR drew me in, and that's what I researched, and it's in my name. So obviously, Game of the Decade conversations, I have to at least mention it too. But there is this quality about MMORPGs that taps into that social connection and that competitive connection. And even with your own teammates, Marcus, you're competing in a way with Slayer or just with yourself, like the way you compete against yourself and the course in golf. Like if you don't continue growing in your craft, you won't belong on your team anymore. And that is something that, as far as video games go, only competitive team-based gaming where your squad is against another squad, or MMOs where it's the team against the quest, captures that. Because all other games, you kind of just play and you engage a challenge and you beat it or you don't. There's not this lifestyle journey to become way better at a game than anybody really should be.
Right.
You know,
yes.
Like sometimes I wonder, am I better at SWTOR or academic writing? And obviously it's in my best interest for the answer to be academic writing. and yet I don't know that I'm the best lightning academic writer in the world right now. So probably SWTOR is what I'm better at. And so that's another thing where the game is competing with other things in my life now.
Well, that's
And it's my responsibility to find the balance in my own personal force that puts me in the position to do what I need to do.
right. Because if you, so I'm going to compare myself to Nick, and Nick and I are very different people. We
That-
like we
that's
like
for
different
sure.
things, but we're on the same path. We have veered off, but our common thing is we both love video games, and it doesn't matter if he plays a single player RPG or I play an MMORPG.
Right.
But the difference here is he plays all the new games that he wants, and everybody listening goes, "Well, you can stop playing SWTOR and play Jedi Fallen Order
Right.
or Pokemon or
Red Dead Redemption 2.
yes, or oh my God, how many Breath of the Wild? How many games has there been?
A lot.
Yes.
Shadow of War.
Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah. Games that you. Oh, I mean, I'm just saying games that I was interested in. Games that you're interested in. There's a lot more.
Right, and so am I cheating myself because I love SWTOR so much because I'm not playing these newer games? Like, just for the graphics alone on Fallen Order on my computer, I should want to play it. I played Destiny 2 the other day with Ven and Kat, and I did like their version of a Flashpoint.
Yeah, in Destiny.
Yeah, and the graphics were sick.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. But again, all I wanted to play was SWTOR. That's it.
Right.
So do I have to wait for SWTOR to be canceled or shut down for me to finally be able to play another game?
No, because then we'll drag you into the emulator server.
Yeah. So, but the point is, did an MMO ruin my gaming life, or did it just make me love one game?
See, so my knee-jerk answer is yes, it did ruin your gaming life because you don't get to play all these different games. But SWTOR has so much to offer. Like, as I'm sitting here thinking of it, it has so much to offer that, like, do you need all these new games? You know what I mean? Like, yes and no. Like, you're missing out on graphics and different experiences. But SWTOR scratches so many sort of proverbial itches, like you were saying, Doc, like your competitive side, your social side. Like, you can get all those things from SWTOR, and it almost enhances those things because it's a constant. You know what I mean? Like, you're consistently in with the same people. You're competing in the same sort of metrics. You know what I mean? So when you do progress, it's can be more rewarding because you've spent so much time with this one game and with this one character or class style with your Marauder. You know what I mean? Like, you're tied to the Marauder class way more than you would be, like, I don't know, some Call of Duty setup or something.
Well,
you know what I mean?
So funny you said that, because even if you date back me before SWTOR took over my life,
Yeah.
I was addicted to Call of Duty.
Right.
Like, I loved it. So have I always been a one-track player? Like, I loved Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 2 is one of the best games ever for me. Symphony of the Night, I can't tell you how long I just played Symphony of the Night, Castlevania. Like, so have I always been a one-game person? I just am in that weird point where, like, I'm so invested in SWTOR, but there's so many cool other games that are come out.
Yeah.
It's so hard because with young kids, 6 hours is like, that's my game time. I probably play more than that, but really, truly, 6 hours is what I can say. Like, that's really like that's my regimented time.
Yeah, and then once
guaranteed 3 days a week, I'm playing for 2 hours a night.
Right.
Well, I think one of the features of MMOs that is not present in other styles of game is the open-ended, continuing nature of gameplay. So the people who are able to switch out of SWTOR and then go play something else and come back just when the expansion happens. I believe they're capable of doing that because they've exhausted all the challenges. So maybe the Nightmare Raiders that easily cleared Revan back when that was the biggest op. And then it took a while for Gods from the Machine to have Master Mode, but, comes back, learns Gods from the Machine, clears that on Master Mode, and then leaves. So there's that kind of player. There could also be a different kind of player that's like, I just want to play the story, comes back, plays for 3 hours, gets their character to the level cap. So in their mind, they've exhausted the challenge and they go back to playing, so in 2019, they go back to playing
Fallen Order.
Yeah, Fallen Order or Spider-Man or whatever it ended up
God
being.
of War.
God of War.
Yeah,
right.
So
the reason maybe that we're locked into SWTOR, Marcus, might be that we have unfinished business. Like we've identified this desire to finish a path that is much more in depth than other people compared to our ability level. And so we're more excited to play on a weekly basis. Whereas, we've run into people, just trying to recruit for Death Star troopers that they're not excited to play the same boss for, 3 to 6 weeks in a row, so like that can kill it too. Like you don't necessarily have to conquer your challenge in order to decide to give up.
And something else too about the MMO, because I'm sure this is true to a lot of different MMOs. I have my I call it my shake your hand friends that like I know that I see on a regular basis or once in a while that are in front of my face. But I feel like my friendships that I've made through this game, some of these people I'm closer to than my real friends.
Yeah, I get you.
Like Doc and I talk on the phone at least, 4 days a week. Like talk on the phone and just have crazy conversations.
Yeah.
You and I talk on the phone too, but I see you in person.
Right.
Versus I so it's like I know all about Doc and his family and all this, and that's just an example. Bo, I mean, there's so many of them.
Right.
And then we all go to the New York Cantina together.
That was great, by the way.
Right. And we pick up Kogus and wow, it just went rave party here.
The lights are flickering.
Yeah, that's wild. Anyway, we all went to the New York Cantina. I mean, we picked up Kogus and Doc, and the most vivid memory, the first time I've ever met Doc in person, he's wearing a T-shirt and it's like 35 degrees out.
Yeah. Clearly he's from Arizona.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I'm wearing a T-shirt today, and that worked out just fine. So,
anyways, so I'm sorry that I rambled on for a little bit, but that's something that's been on my mind for a couple weeks now, and I've really been thinking about it. And Doc was on, and I really wanted his insight on it. And I'm not going to stop playing SWTOR.
Right.
I love it. There's everything that I could want in it, and it keeps going. So congratulations again, BioWare. You did your job. In SWTOR news. Do you hear that?
In SWTOR news.
There it is.
Crickets. There's nothing going on. They released some bullshit about in-game events that are happening in January. Like, who cares? Go kill the eyeless or go get this or go get that. I mean, it's the same thing repeated
over and over, right?
Dantooine.
You are not about the events, Marcus.
Well, no. Listen, okay. I'll tell you to it straight. I do like the events, but come up with some goddamn new ones. Like, how many times can you kill the eyeless and it be fun? Right? Like spend some resources and like have like 30 different events or 12 different events, and once the eyeless is dead, you don't see it for another year. Then I'd be excited to go kill the eyeless.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
For me, it's like, how hard is it to create new events or come up with an event that is like, okay, for the month of February, it's Valentine's Day. So, go, you have to complete 50 PvP matches because, PvP people are mean, but you want to spread the love. You know what I mean? Or,
Yeah.
and that's a stupid example, but come up with something new. Like, it doesn't have to be a direct event, but almost do like a mini dark versus light every month. Like, complete 15 flashpoints and 10 PvP matches. There's your event for the month.
Right.
Like, do something new. Like, it's stale. I guess that's my word on the events. It's just stale to me. Do a new world boss quest. Come up with a new a new speeder or a mount that you can get by killing, doing all the master mode flashpoints or something like that. Do something like that.
Or like for your existing mounts, you could unlock like some cool flames or something.
Right. Like, do something
that
new.
Come off the end of it when
And
you're
is
flying
it
around.
and do they not think about that? Is that something that isn't thought about in the BioWare office?
It might be complicated to do or something.
Bullshit. They create new armor all the time. So why can't they take the Hollow Rancor mount and just add poop coming out of his butt? I'm just saying.
It's the pooping Rancor.
Yeah, the pooping Rancor. There's a flaming Rancor. Why can't you have a pooping Rancor?
Or you could call it, if you want to be a little fancier, you could call it the fecal Rancor.
Oh my god.
Or the Poodoo Rancor.
The Poodoo. I like that.
Yep, that
But
works too.
all I'm saying is, why can't we get new events? And okay, and this is selfish. I host a event that happens once every month, and it's actually coming tomorrow.
Friday. Tomorrow. It's going to be January 10th. It's Mega, the monthly Epic Guild activity. It's going to be a nightlife event at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, the real time. And everybody come hang out with Marcus and I.
My point is give us some new events for me to be able to create new content for the events that I host. And that's me being selfish, but why not? Everybody wants a new event. I mean, come on. Anyways, I keep writing nightlife. See, this is Max and Seema's fault because they kept talking about the nightlife event like they were going to do it.
Okay.
But then it was over for like 2 months. And I was waiting for them to say, oh, it's ending this week. And I would have went and gambled till I won the Rhodian.
But
they didn't say it was over yet. So now I think in my head, like subconsciously, that the nightlife event is going on all the time. But it's really the Life Day event. So we're going to throw some snowballs. I'm hoping
that ending too.
When does that end?
I don't know.
I thought that's next week. I hope it didn't end today.
That's good.
Well, I'll be a little screwed tomorrow night if that's over. Well, then we'll just go and find some Datacrons on Mechshaw and try to do that. Meanwhile,
if all this sounds fun to you, go to aie-guild.org, jump in the Discord, and ask for a guild invite. Whether or not you play SWTOR or any of the other games that we play, we would love to have you. We're talking about any of the other games.
I know, and I called everybody out, and maybe nobody does play it, and I'm the only one. If you play Pokemon Sword or Shield, message me on Discord. Let's do this.
Marcus is trying to wheel and deal and trade all these Pokemon.
Well, I don't have any good Pokemon. I just want
you got all level 20s. You're going to go Myrtlate the gym. Whatever you just use your favorite one because you're going to kill the entire gym in one shot, every single one. And that thing's going to get to level like 30 immediately.
Okay. And I do have a question.
Yeah.
A Pokemon Go question.
That I cannot answer.
Okay. So I went into a gym today and it showed this Pokemon and I was like, but how am I supposed to know if my Pokemon can beat that Pokemon?
Okay. So I can answer this. I have been able to solo up to the 2-star. I mean, they're not stars. They're like Pokemon heads. So 1 monster head or 2 monster heads. It says you need like a group of 6 to 10 people, but you can probably solo that if you have a couple Pokemon that are above 2000 CP, which is like the power stat or whatever. Especially if you have an element advantage. So if it's a fire type and you have some strong water types, if there's 3 of those stars, then I would recommend doing it with a group. 4 and 5 stars, you really need to plan your day around going places and be there when the egg hatches so you can benefit from the 15 to 20 other people who are also camping the egg. Because when that egg first becomes available to attack, that's when everyone enters the battle. So you'll have a massive group and you'll be able to bring down your 5-star legendary enemy. And then hopefully you catch it.
See, I don't know anything about that.
Well, you attack the raid monster, the raid Pokemon, and if you bring its HP down to 0, it shrinks and becomes catchable. And then you have a set amount of time, I think, or a set number of Pokeballs to try and catch it.
Okay. You and I are going to have a talk about this tomorrow. Because,
Yeah.
All right. Nick, I know you have to pee.
I definitely do. So we'll be right back.
Geez, Nick, hurry up. We're trying to finish this podcast.
And we're back.
So this episode, we're going to be discussing our favorite games of the decade, but then also going into the final episodes of The Mandalorian.
Because it was so good.
It was great. But let's chat about these games first. So we are talking about games from 2010 through 2019.
I'd like to ask first.
Yeah?
What's your favorite game of 2019?
See, I was looking up games from 2019, and I think my favorite that actually came out this year. Well, no, that's easy. Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah,
That's easy.
you soaked 100 hours into that.
That
game.
was a no-brainer once I thought
that
about
lasted like 12 episodes.
it. Yeah, it was like still playing Red Dead, still playing Red Dead, still play. Well, that's because it's also because I don't like to leave side missions undone, like similarly to the Outer Worlds. If there's a side quest, I want to do it.
Sure.
So I like to play all those. That's why it took me forever.
And the game is really good.
Yeah, so it's easy to just.
I played the intro. I played it twice.
the intro twice.
No. The intro and then the first couple missions.
Yeah.
I think I made it to like the second
Camp.
The first camp.
Yeah, like you got through the snowy part is technically a camp,
And then you in the town of the first camp.
Yeah.
Which is still like kind of tutorial-ish.
right.
And then I got to the second camp.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
the second
Like,
real camp.
no, first real camp.
Oh, so the one where you're outside of the town. I forgot what.
No, you're on like the top of a mountain.
Yeah, but there's a town nearby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, but now it's out for the PC,
Mhm.
and I would love to get it, but I won't play it. Anyways, Doc, what's your favorite game of 2019?
Resident Evil 2, the remake.
See, I never played it,
See,
which I can respect though. I just never played it.
so this creates another question of I personally I don't know why they keep making these remake games. Like the games came out already. Make something new.
Yeah.
Like stop
Well-
giving us remade games and give us a new Resident Evil.
Well, I disagree with that because of what the Resident Evil 2 remake was. So, did you
Okay.
play Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 on the PS1?
Yes.
Okay.
Resident Evil 3. Well, first of all, Resident Evil 1, that first time the dogs jumped through the window in the mansion.
Yep.
Freaked me
Yeah.
out. Freaked me out. Okay. Second is Resident Evil 3, the Nemesis. The first time he jumped through the door, lost my shit, like literally like pooped a little in my pants and like shut the game up because I freaked out. So yes, I remember those very vividly. I think
Okay.
Resident Evil 3 was on the PS2.
I played it on PS1.
Oh, maybe it was the PS1. I don't know.
Anyway.
Anyways.
I don't want to get sidetracked, but Resident Evil 2, the remake, took the games of Resident Evil where you actually aim your gun, and applied that to a game that was all blocky, top down, just hold down the R button to aim and hit square to shoot. So there is no aiming in Resident Evil 2 except for pivoting your tank controls. So it has different gameplay. And this is one, like, whenever you start talking about graphics, Marcus, I roll my eyes and it's like, why does that even matter? Because I love so many games that look like PS1 garbage. And like the graphics don't matter to me, but because of like trying to capture a horror feeling inside that police station and the 3 other locations that you end up in, the graphics actually created this, like, I felt like I was a kid again trying to do it for the first time. And
you're saying in the remake?
In the remake, right, this year. Like, I felt like they captured it so well, but it was new because you're seeing Leon and Claire's facial expressions now, which, they didn't really have faces. They had like 5 pixels, and your camera was very far away from them. And I feel like bringing it up to the modern mechanics of gameplay and having to fill in some of those gaps, because there's a little bit of the experience that feels new because it's not a PS1 game anymore.
Right.
So, I just really enjoyed it. It also has the difficulty thing where, beat this difficulty in a certain amount of time to unlock the knife that doesn't break, and then beat this difficulty to get the unlimited ammo handgun, and then you can really tackle hardcore mode. And I just really like difficulty challenges that stack like that. So that's what I enjoyed about RE2. I feel like it was different enough from playing the PS1 game to where it actually makes sense that they
Sure.
remake it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I get it.
Marcus, what was your favorite game of 2019?
Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Ooh.
Well, let me explain why. So at the end of 2018, Death Star Troopers decided to go hard mode. And all of 2019, Death Star Troopers went through changes and hard mode after hard mode after hard mode. And I really found myself in the game of what I enjoy. And now in 2019, I changed to a tank. So Star Wars: The Old Republic has to take that.
Right.
I don't even have a second place game. There's not, I've dabbled in Pokemon and a bunch of other games twice, but really, truly, SWTOR is the only game. That's my game of the year because of all the fun that I have playing the game. So real quick, we're not going to dive too far into it, but let's just do a quick round table on what are your favorite games of the decade. And I'll start it off just because it's one of my favorite games.
Mm-hmm.
It was Mass Effect 2 in 2010. So that begins the decade. And if you think back, like, I don't know if you guys played them, Mass Effect 2 or not, but I remember when that game came out, the graphics were incredible.
Yeah, they were
like
stunning.
I was like, whoa. I think that was Xbox 360.
Yes,
and,
yes, it was.
And PC.
I remember you telling me to play that game, and I'm like, yeah, I'll play it. And then you ended up letting me borrow your Mass Effect 1, so I slogged through that first. And Mass Effect 2 was dramatically better.
It was so good. Doc, did you play it?
No, I haven't played beyond demos. I haven't played any game in the Mass Effect series. Well, I have played Mass Effect 1 for about 3 hours, but it fell into this thing where, like, by that time it was an old game, and it was like, oh, I'm playing single player SWTOR with no lightsabers. So
Right.
I just started playing SWTOR again, which is a little bit about what we've been talking about this whole episode, actually. Is SWTOR is the reason I haven't played Mass Effect.
Sure. What about you, Nick?
Well, for Mass Effect, you asked me about Mass Effect 2.
No. Yeah. What did you think?
Well, for me, that was, I want to say, I'm trying to remember, it was 2010. That was pre-Skyrim. So I'll get into my Bethesda obsession in this decade, but that game was probably for me the first game where you could make my first experience with BioWare games and making choices. So in that game, you're playing as Commander Shepard and you're recruiting all these different characters to your team essentially to go fight.
Yep.
And your choices in your recruiting quest, so to speak, matter to whether or not they like you, whether or not you can actually recruit this person in the end of the game, and all of that matters towards the end of the game. And I really think, now that I'm thinking about it, Mass Effect 2 might be why I love RPGs so much, because that's the first game that introduced me to that butterfly effect sort of choice system that I cherish now and throughout the rest of the decade in the games that I love. And all of the games that I love have an element of that in them somewhere. So I can, now that I'm thinking about it, I think Mass Effect 2 basically started my love of RPGs.
Sure.
Prior to that, I mean, my age-wise, I couldn't really, comprehend like complicated stories like that. But so I was playing mostly like action games, but I think Mass Effect 2 might be the reason why I like RPGs.
Sure.
So it's a big deal. That game was hugely influential.
Let's do some honorable mentions. Who wants to go first?
Actually, Nick, you just said something that blew my mind open. I had to jump into Google on my phone and check what year a game came out.
Okay.
And so this decade is 2010, right? That
Yes.
counts?
Yeah.
Heavy Rain is such an important game to me, because that's another one that put me on my path to start researching video game choices and behaviors.
Wow, that game is crazy.
And that came out in February 2010, which was about 6 months before I even graduated from my master's program. So talk about being a different person.
Yeah, and I remember I didn't get that game when it first came out. That was like I don't have anything to play. What the heck is Heavy Rain? And all the back of the package said, help catch the origami killer. And I went home and I played it, and I didn't know how it played or anything. And like everything was like the analog stick down and swipe in a circle to do this, or go up to the right and do this. And like all the actions when you were in a fight, like you had to like tap X and like do like a circle motion on the
analog stick.
On the analog stick, there was some crazy like controls, and the decisions you made in that game were wild because you really truly affected situations, and you didn't realize how affected it was until the end of the game.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a hugely
That's a
influential
good call, Doc. That's a really good call.
Thanks.
Can I jump in a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking up, speaking of 2010 Game of the Year nominees, Mass Effect 2 won, obviously. One of your favorite games ever, Call of Duty Black Ops, is also nominated.
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty's Call of Duty. But the big thing I want to talk about is Red Dead Redemption 1 was also nominated. Red Dead Redemption 1 and then Red Dead Redemption 2 were some of my favorite games ever.
Wait, and that came out in 2010?
Yeah, those games are bookending the decade.
Wow.
Wow.
All right. Wow. So fun fact, I 100%ed Red Dead 1.
Wow.
I loved that game.
Yeah, I did
and
too.
Then, so we're circling back to the original question of the night.
Right.
I was pumped. I love Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Love it. And the Red Dead, and I love it. But I didn't play it because
of SWTOR.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
I got to shout out both of those. I did not 100% it, but I finished. I think I had like 89%. on the Xbox 360.
I can't believe that was 2010.
Yeah,
Makes me feel old.
me too. So I think I had finished playing that, and then I went and was looking for a game, and you're like, dude, you need to play Mass Effect 2, and then that's what started it. But my I didn't want to skip over Red Dead Redemption 1. That was an amazing game. But I cannot talk about games of this decade, not talk about the game that started sort of my Bethesda obsession and that's the Elder Scrolls 4 Skyrim. So Skyrim, I was in 2011. I was in high school looking to get into an AP class that was going to be AP chemistry later, and all the nerdy kids in that class before me were talking about this game Skyrim. I'm like, what the heck is that? Like, oh, it's the sequel to Oblivion. So I was too young to play Oblivion properly. All I would do is when my cousin Dan would play Oblivion, I would watch him and not know what the heck was going on. And I had it, but I never really played it because I didn't really get RPGs. So fast forward to 2011 when Skyrim came out, and after I'd already played Mass Effect, I'm like, ooh, let's do this. I want to play Skyrim. And I played so much Skyrim. I probably put 250 to 300 hours on my Xbox 360 and another 500 or so hours on the PC later when I went through and played it again. I played so much Skyrim, it was preposterous. So I couldn't get enough. And then when I looked to other games, okay, what else is like this game that I could play? And that's when I found Fallout 3. So Fallout 3 is made before Skyrim, and I can tie it into this decade shortly. But I played a whole bunch of Fallout 3 again, 300, 400 hours, something like that. And I couldn't get enough. Wait, there's more? What's this Fallout New Vegas? And Fallout New Vegas ended up being my favorite game of all time. So 300 or 400 hours there again. Fast forward to 2015. I'm in college now, and I hear that I'm working a landscaping summer job in between working with Marcus doing carpentry things, and I get a notification on my phone while we're in between lawns. Oh, Bethesda announced that they were making a new Fallout game, and here's the trailer. And I had made my boss stop and let me watch the 3-minute trailer before we went on to the next lawn, which he was a little grumpy about, but I didn't care.
Whatever.
It was great. I was just obsessed this whole decade through with these games and their story mechanic and this really cool lore that I could sink my teeth into. That's like this parallel version of the U.S., especially knowing that Fallout 4 was set in Boston. So I was just obsessed with this whole series of games, and it all sparked from Skyrim back in 2011. Also, quick honorable mentions now. Shadow of Mordor came out in that was 2014. 2014. Shadow of Mordor came out. Yeah, that was nominated for Game of the Year. That was an amazing game that I played a whole bunch of in college, and then obviously I played the sequel. We'll talk about it on the podcast. Spider-Man PS4 I played a whole bunch of. That was a fantastic game that came out in, I believe, 2017. And then also BioShock Infinite coming out in 2013 made me go back and replay the originals, which were both great. The original BioShock especially. But that's it for me for my honorable mentions of the decade.
What about you, Doc?
All right. Well, on the topic of BioShock Infinite, I'm wearing a shirt of that right now. So I guess it made an impact on me.
Enough to buy some merch.
Yeah. I love that game. Like I've spent so much time thinking about the paths of the heroes and villain of that story. Just great. It stuck with me so long after stopping playing it. Batman Arkham City.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, like it has an ending of, well, I mean, there's Arkham Knight, but I feel like Arkham Knight is an epilogue to the ending that was Arkham City. Mark Hamill's work as the Joker and Kevin Conroy as Batman it's just, I'm always up for that. The Last of Us is just heartbreakingly gorgeous as a piece of fiction, not just a video game. Journey inspired me to write a journal article because it's about the hero's journey, which is something that I, connect with. It's why we have Star Wars and Harry Potter and all the things we love to chat about when we have live microphones. But there's no spoken dialogue in the game, which really taps into kind of that childhood feeling that I would have when I would play Ocarina of Time. But it's short. You can beat it in 90 minutes or so, maybe even an hour, and you're just like going through the stages of the hero's journey symbolically as you go across the desert and other terrains. Persona 5 is also on my list because it has lots of psychological imagery, archetypes, and symbolism as the high schoolers do their social maneuvering in the day and stealing hearts and saving the spirit of the universe at night. And I mentioned Heavy Rain, BioShock, and SWTOR. I wrote my dissertation on it, and I play it every week. And it had the entire life of the game, kind of goes back from 2011 to now, and I'm still doing it. I love it. Everything's better with lightsabers too. So that's a big thing. How about you, Marcus?
So, couple games. Dead Space was
yes.
So Dead Space, I don't know what year it came out. I know the first and the second. I beat both of them. Those games scared me so much that I would only play one chapter per month because I would get so scared playing it. Something that did come out, I think it was 2010, was Crisis. So if you, it might have come out in 2011. I'm going to look at the Wikipedia because I don't know. Anyways, so, the first one came out and it was Crisis 2. Sorry. So Crisis 1 was back when, computers were not powerful at all. And this game broke every computer because you needed an insane computer back in 2007 to play it. But Crisis 2 came out, and the graphics were unbelievable, and I was newer to PC gaming, and I really enjoyed Crisis 2. BioShock Infinite was good. I never beat it. I got stuck on I think it was the last mission where you were on the ship and you had to run from turret to turret and
that is
stuff.
Basically the last fight. That's hard though.
Yeah, well,
that was really, really hard.
I did it so much and I just kept dying and dying and dying. Like I said earlier, Mass Effect 2, Star Wars: The Old Republic, and that's still the game. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, that was in between Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2, and that was unbelievable because and I think that's why I like SWTOR so much, is because Call of Duty back then was when all of my friends were online and we would all sign in at the same time and
play together.
Exactly.
That's a good point. I forgot. I Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 and Modern Warfare 2 deserves a big honorable mention from both of us because our whole paintball team would get on and play together.
Right. Yes.
It felt like almost nightly. For a while there.
Right. Exactly. And and I know I'm probably missing some games because of course we were forgetting some games, right? But through it all, there's been so many games, and video games as a whole has just been a part of my life. I mean, you remember Titanfall?
Yeah.
The first one? When that game came out and you got into the mech for the first time,
yeah,
the graphics were unbelievable, but it was such a good experience.
It was a whole unique experience too, in and of itself.
Right. StarCraft 2 was 2010.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big StarCraft 2 person, but yeah, like that's a huge game that went on for years and years and years.
Right.
But a big one for me was Halo Reach.
Yeah.
Because that was a multiplayer game and you got to experience it on what am I trying to say?
Consoles?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and you got an awesome story and you got the game. But the last one I want to mention is, believe it or not, it's Breath of the Wild. So I've played a bunch of the Legend of Zeldas. Never have I seen a game do everything that Breath of the Wild did.
Yeah.
Exploration, like the weapons mechanic, as dumb as I think it is, it's like, oh, I'm trying to kill this thing and this bat just broke. What do I do now? I got to run around and find something to be able to
kill this with,
or it's going to kill me, or I just got to keep running away.
Right.
I'm actually like, this is why I want to beat it, because the second one's coming and like it's going to be that good.
I'm looking forward to beating Breath of the Wild once I'm done with the Outer Worlds.
Right. And I would say in this last decade, something that we didn't mention that is on my mind, I want to thank all the indie developers, because think about all the indie games that we've played. And I'm going to give you an example of one of the most fun ones that I played.
Yeah.
It's called Her Story. You can get it on Steam right now, and it's $5.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right. So the whole thing is you're a cop, and you have to type in the database keywords. And it's just this woman being interviewed, and you have to try to get her in the interview to admit she murdered her boyfriend.
Right.
And there's like 7 different interviews, and it's a complete indie game, and it's the most fun I had. And I beat it, and it was like, because it's as simple as possible. It's a pretend like MS-DOS computer,
yeah.
and you type in murder, and then all these interviews clips pop up, and you watch it. It's every time that word is mentioned.
Right.
And then you just go through, and it took a while to figure it out, but that game was unbelievable, and you can get it for $5.
Right.
So
look at Norman's Night in the Cave, another indie game that we enjoyed a lot. Yeah.
Like, we went back at PAX every day to play that game.
Yeah.
To play that one game.
Right.
So my point is the indie games that we're not even mentioning,
like the Jack in the Box games, that's fairly indie.
I don't know what that is.
It's a series of different party games that I don't remember the specifics of to explain properly, but like I think one of them it might be, I think this is all the same developers, but like keep talking before or you'll explode or something to that effect.
Sure.
It's one of them is you're looking, one person has a set of instructions in front of them, and one person has a bomb in front of them. Like, it's on a computer.
Yeah.
So you and I would be playing with 2 laptops across from each other. And on your screen, you have a PDF of these bomb diffusing instructions. And I just have this bomb on my screen that I can rotate around and click different doodads on and cut wires on. But I have to describe the bomb to you without you seeing the bomb. And you have to, based on what's on it, like, is it a number pad? Is it these 3 different wires? Is it a big red button? Is it,
sure,
and you have to go through your instructions and figure out the instructions for each little sort of module on the bomb to get me to defuse it in a certain amount of time.
Sure.
So that's fun. There's like these racing games on there. There's all kinds of different things, like these word association games.
Yeah.
That are like sort of Jeopardy style. But long story short, another indie game.
Yes.
Developer
So,
that we appreciate.
I feel like maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm just blind, but in 2010 to now, indie games are everywhere where they never were. Or maybe I didn't notice. Or maybe they weren't as available now because there's so many platforms that allow indie games to post.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway.
I think this has been probably one of the best decades for gaming.
Well, that's what they say every decade because graphics grow.
It gets
better.
Computer
power. It gets easier to make games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So games progressively get better because technology allows it.
Right. So
okay.
Before we jump into The Mandalorian, let's take one more quick bathroom break. We'll be right back.
Geez, Nick, hurry up. We're trying to finish this podcast.
And we're back for the 4,000th pee break.
It was the second. It's the first time in Working Class Nerds history. Well, maybe second. I don't remember. We've done 62 episodes. They blend together.
Yeah. But, you know.
Well, actually, they don't blend together. They're separated by pee breaks.
That is fair.
Okay, so
We're talking about The Mandalorian.
so we finally have somebody on the show that has seen the whole
All the episodes.
all of it. And
Apparently, that's a lot to ask for.
so in customary Working Class Nerds fashion, Doc, what did you think of the show?
I loved it. I love when I watch Star Wars and everything fits together and it's thought out well enough to where I don't feel like I'm experiencing plot holes or missed opportunities. And The Mandalorian captures all of that, and the minds behind that show, you can tell they love Star Wars and love all of Star Wars, and that's what I want when I'm watching this stuff.
You seem to be alluding to some Star Wars. I don't know what I'm looking for.
Nick, I'm talking about The
Star Wars.
Mandalorian on Disney Plus.
All right, fair enough. So I also enjoyed The Mandalorian. I think it's probably one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars. Anything besides, I guess I really enjoyed Fallen Order, but Star Wars digital media that wasn't a video game.
You mean a movie?
Yeah, that wasn't a no. I mean, outside of the video games, I think this I like The Mandalorian more than any Star Wars movie / TV show thing that's come out in the past probably 10 years or so.
I'd like to add, though, that I'm rewatching through Rebels with my son, and we started with Clone Wars about a year ago, and we've just gone straight through all of that, and I get the same feeling of everything I just described from the Dave Filoni animated stuff, too. Like, it just fits with itself. It's telling a story. You get invested in the characters, and there's not this whole, like, feeling like there's a part of Star Wars that we'd like to abandon and you to forget about kind of vibe.
So I never finished the Clone Wars.
Me neither.
But I'm deep in now. I think I'm in season 4 and I'm enjoying it a lot. But anyways, back to The Mandalorian. I liked seeing something new. I liked we're on a different. So right now, somebody from the movies is doing something, but who cares about that? Let's focus on this guy.
Right.
And what I like is you see kind of, I'm going to say, the wild, wild west of the galaxy. And it shows you that, like, in the galaxy far, far away, there's no police, right? It's like, it is a wild, wild west.
Right. The whole galaxy is.
Right. So, like, the Empire was the police, right? The international police, or like your state police or the FBI. Like, that's what they were.
Yeah, the feds.
Right. But on a planet by planet,
there's no local police.
Yeah, like, or that we've seen, and if there is, they're corrupt or they're just unavailable.
Well, we're not seeing the core worlds either. We're seeing
the outer rim,
like outer rim fringe kinds of planets in this show. So
Well,
that explains, like, I would guess that there is a New Republic trying to do stuff, but it's probably only benefiting like 5 to 10 planets really at this point in time.
That's fair to
And
say.
everything else is a free for all.
Right.
And we're getting something we've never seen before.
For me, yeah, go ahead.
All we've ever seen is Boba Fett gets sent into the Sarlacc and him macking it to some ladies in Jabba's palace, and like Darth Vader saying no disintegrations.
Right.
But other than that, we've never seen this side of that coin.
Right.
And now we're seeing the disintegrations too.
Well, that's what I mean. And that's and it's so funny you say that, but that's such a small piece of the magic of this show, because not many people understand the whole disintegrations comment is referring back to The Empire Strikes Back. And that's what this is happening in this show.
Right. And one of the I know I've mentioned this before on the show, but one of my favorite just I don't know pieces of this whole Mandalorian puzzle is that it's set to a Western sort of genre vibe, which like as a I'm not like a film schnob, but I guess like I play one on TV. The that I really love that, especially the first few episodes. You get like a fistful of dollars, a good, bad, and the ugly sort of vibe, a spaghetti Western vibe from the show, which is incredibly cool to see it set in the Star Wars universe on top of all the things that you guys are mentioning.
Well, on that Jabba the Pod podcast, which I've mentioned before, they had a Lucasfilm sound guy on, and when Mando walks, excuse me, when Mando walks, they do have spurs that are a slight sound in the background to make you feel that way.
Also, the score really hits home that vibe. Like it's still got Star Wars beats to it and motifs, but they mix it in with those Western sounds and instrumentation.
Right, it's the bounty hunting is the Wild Wild West.
Right, it's on top of highlighting you're in the Outer Rim. And obviously you start off on a fairly deserty planet, but a lot of the cinematography is similar too. Like you have a lot of these big, wide, sweeping landscape shots, and then some uptight ones where the Mandalorian's in frame. And to set up all your environments, you have these big, wide landscape shots, which is pretty textbook Western. And plus, not to mention, our protagonist doesn't talk a whole lot. He's like the strong silent type. It all fits within the Western, and I really enjoyed that whole setup.
And then you throw in the whole guild bounty hunting pucks and how it starts. Oh, you spilled my drink, and then instantly it shows you like the lasso.
Yeah.
That he shoots Luke with and ties up Luke, and he cuts the string, or Boba Fett cuts the string. And
yeah,
like they just built off of everything that everybody loved about Boba Fett. They just doubled it and gave it to this guy.
Right.
And made him awesome. And then what's the actor's name?
Pedro Pascal.
He did an awesome job of portraying a guy who's always in a mask. No facial expressions, but the guy knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, with his body language.
Exactly. Something that else is, I found magical is that the Empire is still around.
Right.
So they've been defeated, but yet they're still around. And as the show progresses, they become more and more evident.
Yeah, that's cool that they tie that into the original trilogy. With the remnants of the Empire sort of still dictating like their power, and this is still the Wild Wild West. Like even though they're not the central power in the galaxy, the central power in the galaxy does not have any authority out in these wild streets,
sure,
so to speak.
They gave us awesome companions for him.
Yeah, I thought all of the side characters were fantastic.
Right, and I have spoken. That's Nick Nolte. I mean, his character was awesome.
I loved IG 11.
Yeah, I
Baby Yoda obviously is
IG is my favorite.
Yeah. By the originally, I thought IG was pretty cool, but by in this last couple episodes, he really won me over. Of course,
IG is the element of the show that makes me really high up on the storytelling, because they gave us a character they built off of, another bounty hunter that we've been imagining about since 1980. And then they gave it a couple lines, just wanting to self-destruct so bad during that opening battle.
Yes.
Yep.
And then, he comes back, his personality's different. He has a different goal. He's a medic droid now. Like, how crazy is that? This killer bounty hunter droid is now a medic.
Right.
And, it allows for the Mandalorian to receive medical help, because that's the only way that was going to happen. And he then got to self-destruct in a way that served the rest of his party. And that's masterful storytelling.
I thought so too. Very polished, well thought out, cohesive, and I know we don't want to talk about those other Star Wars on intellectual properties, but it was really cool to see something like that, just a story and character arc, so polished and perfect, especially by comparison. I think that type of story within the shell of all the other things we're talking about, the Western, hey, this is a bounty hunter. Hey, this is set to be like in the Western genre. Hey, this is other people that aren't Jedis, On top of all that, you've got this really cool cast of side characters, and some really well thought out, polished character arcs that I think we all really, really, really appreciated.
Personally, my favorite was seeing all of the Mandos in like the subway tunnel or whatever it is.
Yeah, in the sewers.
Just hanging out and then showing that they are still all like connected. This is the way. But
yeah, they're a whole clan.
Yeah, exactly. And they're still around and relevant, which I really liked.
I thought it was interesting too that they're not just a race of people, that they're sort of welcoming in foundlings and they're accepting, people who have lost their way, and they're helping people out. I thought that was interesting, and sort of it makes you want, as the viewer, want to be a Mandalorian. It makes you be like, oh, I could be a Mandalorian. I could get the letter from Hogwarts. So you know what I mean? You could have been rescued by the Mandalorians and have become one.
Right.
Follow the creed.
Sure. And then Yoda baby.
Yoda baby. Can we before? And I know we're not there yet, but by the time or maybe we're close to it. By the time we wrap up, I want to do a little tinfoil hatitude about what we want to see coming up.
Yeah, I want to make sure we say that.
I want to know. Well, it makes it seem. I know, Marcus, you wrote in the notes here, where do all the other Mandalorians go? I think most of them got killed by the Empire when they went back in, and basically a few of them are scattered, but most of them died, and only the armorer is left down there.
See, I don't think so. I don't think they're dead.
I think a lot of them died.
But are they Mandalorians anymore now that they're walking around without helmets?
Correct.
See, I thought the implication was that because they lost their helmet, they died. Like, they died, and those are just the helmets that the Empire piled up. It's not that they cast...
According to the creed, they might as well be dead.
That's true. I think that's a good point, too. They're not Mandalorians anymore. So, if that's the point, if that's the case...
Didn't she say they were hiding?
No, I thought she said that many of them died, and that's what... Basically, that's what the helmets were. But she was said, like... I think, our Mando, whose name I keep forgetting, was asking, what happened to everyone, and she, is there anyone left? And she said there could be some in hiding, but most of them died. It was basically what I thought the gist of that conversation was, that most of them died, but hey, maybe some escaped and are hiding. But basically, I'm the only one here still, and I'm cleaning up and gonna kick some Empire booty.
Sure. The planets were awesome. Like, opening planet, they're on that ice, and the guy's like, stay off the ice, and then
gets eaten by the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah, the Loch Ness monster. Seeing the dirty stormtroopers, like, all of the things that they did were enjoyable. I'm going to give you one gripe before we jump into what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it was an 8-episode season, but only 4 episodes progressed the story. Maybe 5.
Yeah.
And like
4.5.
When you like, the Clone Wars was so special because there was like 30 episodes to a season.
Yeah.
And they could do filler episodes where C-3PO and R2-D2 went off on a side quest to do something dumb.
Yeah.
But it worked because it was there were so many episodes, but I feel like in an 8-episode season, it should be 8 episodes for the story of the season.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. But I also don't know how they would have stretched out that story any further, without making it seem cheesy. I almost can appreciate, like, hey, this is a filler episode and it's just a filler episode. I would almost rather that than, like, if they try to put a nugget of story into one of those other episodes. You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes Game of Thrones had done that, where it's like they stretched out some stuff that they didn't need to stretch out.
I guess.
But
what do you think, Doc?
There are many shows too that are quite famous, and when you go back and watch them, they're season 1, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Season 1 is Monster of the Week, and then at the end, the plot actually concludes on itself and leads to season 2. And that's kind of a thing, actually, Marcus. So, like, you're describing exactly what they were probably aiming for.
Oh,
It's spending that time and doing a television story slow like that gives people time to develop that emotional connection with the main characters or the principal characters. Whereas if you're always focused on story, then you don't have time for character development. And finding that balance is actually the difference between stories in our fandoms that we really love and stories in our fandoms that were like, what was that? Because if you're 100% on one and 0 on another, then the story feels weird.
sure.
yeah, I totally. That's a good point. Because I think a lot of so I don't know what do you think is a filler episode?
I don't know now.
Prison
Just when
Break.
the
prison break one. That's what the first thing that came to my mind.
And the whole just like the when they're what's the first planet they go to after they escape?
Oh, that
The
forest.
Planet?
Yeah.
Yeah, the forest. Yeah, with the ATST. I mean, it showed that they're never going to be safe, but that was really
A very minor story plot.
yeah. That was
Season 2 might change that because the woman that starts building that connection with Mando, they leave her behind. She might factor into the story down the line. Also, Gina Carano, Cara Dune comes back and becomes a companion to the Mandalorian in later episodes. So that that was a story of the week episode, but it led to reconnecting with the overall plot already in big ways.
I would say in the prison episode, I if we're agreeing that that's pretty much solely filler.
Yep.
I think that what that does is to your previous point, Doc. It's character development, showing you the skills of the Mandalorian, particularly in combat. Like you see, obviously, the first scene in the show is him, kicking butt in the cantina, but then he gets beat up quite a bit, especially by that what's it called, a mudhorn or something.
yeah.
And then later
That was the tank.
He gets beat up a lot.
It was the tank in the 4-person flashpoint.
Right. So he gets pretty beat up, and then you don't see him really flourish. At least I don't think, not too much, like on his own until that episode. At least for me, that was a hey, he can be super badass, and
Right.
that was basically what that episode was.
Yeah. Well, we got Jawas.
Yeah, but that was against Jawas.
Yeah.
We're talking about he was against battle droids and real mercenaries that are used to fighting.
Well, I mean, he did get defeated by the Jawas too.
Yep.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
And they made him. They made him human.
Yeah.
Or alive.
Yeah, relatable.
Yes.
He's not a perfect killing machine, but then that episode shows that he can be, if he needs to be, sort of thing.
All right. So
he gets hit by a blaster bolt in almost every episode too, which is very different from what we're accustomed to with our Star Wars heroes.
That's true too.
And then in the final episode, you got the Moff that finally showed up in the TIE Fighter, and right at the end, he cuts himself out of the TIE Fighter and he has the dark saber.
Now, for those of you who don't know, Doc, you may be able to speak on this better than I am, but from what I understand, the dark saber is introduced in Rebels, Clone Wars,
Yep.
and then also later in Rebels, and it originates from the first Mandalorian, the race that became a Jedi, and that is the lightsaber that Mandalorian turned Jedi made. Is that correct?
It's either that or they developed it as their own weapon to be able to combat Jedi.
Oh, okay.
Whoever wields it is historically the leader of the Mandalorian people.
Okay.
So, spoilers for the Clone Wars: when Darth Maul takes over the Mandalorians, he kills Pre Vizsla with the dark saber, and then Darth Maul has the dark saber for the rest of the Clone Wars, and
Okay.
then doesn't later in the story, obviously. And so the Imperial, whatever his rank is, Moff. Or yeah, which I believe, let's see, the name is that from Breaking Bad, Giancarlo Esposito.
Yep.
Chicken Man. Oh, it's so good to see him in Star Wars.
Los Pollos Hermanos.
Yes. I'm so excited to see what he becomes, and him cutting himself out of that TIE fighter. It's so terrible that we have to wait
to see
so
what happens
long.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, just such a tease. And but it's so exciting for the prospects of what they're getting ready to do in the world of their little story here.
Speaking of where they're going to go, is Doc, where do you think season 2 takes us?
I mean, I think we're about to get flooded by Baby Yoda merchandise, and then Disney's going to want to diversify that merchandise. So the more things Baby Yoda does, the better it is for them across the board in terms of Disney Plus subscriptions, merchandise, and love for the show. So I think that we're going to get some nuggets of what's actually going on there, hopefully from the Mando side and the Imperial side, because it does seem important to our Imperial Moff to get that child back. I think we're going to have more random missions as they try to find a place to settle down and the Empire won't find them, which probably won't be very possible. And just getting to see more alien species is cool. Like, one thing about that Prison Break episode is we saw species that we're not used to in a live action way. And I thought that was really great for establishing live action Star Wars things. Just I hope there's more episodes. Actually, I hope that it could go beyond 8 next time around too.
I hope so too.
30.
No, I don't.
No.
It's a live action show, so I don't think. I think 12.
10 or
Yeah.
12.
10 or 12 would be
And
great.
also, they're 30-minute episodes too. So we're not talking like the 10-episode seasons we're used to for things like Game of Thrones. That's actually close to double the number of minutes because you're getting the 2 entire episodes, but they're all 25 to 30 minutes longer than the Mandalorian episodes too.
Right.
That's a good point. For me, sorry, Doc, I didn't mean to cut you off if you're...
Oh, no, I was at a great stopping point.
For me, I think, obviously, the Mandalorian, our character, the Mando, is going to get the Darksaber at some point, and I think it could be interesting. Although, I'll just quickly tell you my original sort of theory. I thought that the Mandalorian, the person that made that original Darksaber was a Mandalorian that turned into a Jedi and got Jedi trained. So I thought, how cool would it be if maybe there's a time jump or something, and we see Baby Yoda as like a real Jedi, and Baby Yoda ends up getting the Darksaber from the Mandalorian. And first of all, the Mandalorian gets the Darksaber from that Moff, through combat at some capacity, and then uses it for a while. And then later, Baby Yoda then gets gifted the Darksaber from the Mandalorian, since the Mandalorian was sort of his guardian for so long, and Baby Yoda uses that as his lightsaber as a Jedi, and we get some story tidbits of that. That might be like a 3rd season or 4th season type of thing, but I thought that might be a cool plot line to explore. Marcus?
I think all of your takes are good. The only thing that I would say that I want out of season 2 is I want to know what race Baby Yoda is.
Yeah.
I think, and I want to know where Yodas come from.
What planet and what race they're from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I have a weird feeling that, so at the end, the woman says he is your baby, essentially, and you need to help him find home, whatever that is. And I think they're going to find that planet, and I think the Empire is going to follow them.
Yeah, and they'll bring trouble.
And I think that's season 2. I think it's going to be a more space race for, like, in bounty hunting for Mando, but I think his companions are going to join
in all of the adventures.
I think there's going to be another IG unit, and I think Cara Dune is going to join them full time, and I think Apollo Creed is going to come too.
I can't remember that character's name.
You know what I mean? Because I just have a weird feeling that it's not going to be just him and Baby Yoda in season 2.
Yeah,
I think they're going to need backup.
I think, yeah, and they set up those side characters so well. I think they should keep them.
Right. Thanks, Doc, for coming on.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
This is awesome.
It was a great show. Thank you.
What are you guys talking about in here?
Find out next episode of
Working Class Nerds.